All right. So the cover is, so let me just talk about this. A book's front cover works like a billboard, right? Capturing attention in a very short amount of time. It should attract your core audience with the right graphics, title, and color scheme. All of it means something. A good front cover begs the right viewer to learn more by flipping to the back cover. So your front cover draws your audience in. There are the top three, well, one, two, three, four, the top four things someone does before they decide if they're going to write to buy your book is the title. That is the first thing that is appealing to them, the title, right? And the subtitle, if you do have one. The second thing is the book cover. The book cover attracts the audience, especially the one who is the ideal reader, to the cover. The second thing is the book description that is on the back of the book. Or if they're going to Amazon to make a decision to buy your book, they're reading the book description that's in the description of the book. It's the same thing that's on the back of the book. That's the same thing that we put on the Amazon page of the book, right? And then the fourth thing is the introduction. So the title, the cover, what's written as the book description or the back of the book, and then the introduction. Those things. So whatever the description of the book is has to be really, it has to catch the person's, it has to connect to them, connect to their heart, connect to their senses, connect to whatever it is that will make them want to buy the book, right? That's why I just said, when you have like this marketing message or the storytelling message that you can say in probably 15 or 20 seconds, it is easier for someone to want to buy your book because you can say the why, the who, and the what in 20 seconds, right? Just like that. Sometimes the first part of the book scene is the spine, especially if someone is in a library or if they're in a bookstore, right? But bookstores are kind of outdated now, right? But for people who love going into Barnes and Noble or love going into Books A Million or love going into any store that sells book, the first thing sometimes they'll see is the spine. Depending on how the shelf is laid out, they may see, like I'm looking behind Tangela, and I don't know if that's a real image or image from like a digital image, but if you notice all the books, everything you're looking at is the spine, right? So some bookstores, if you know, they'll face their book forward depending on the shelf it is on, right? They'll face one forward and then face the rest, the spine. So sometimes the first part of the book scene is a spine. Its design should help your book stand out by using the color, a bold title, and possibly a small picture to intrigate the reader. Now, depends on the size of the book. You can put a picture. I don't usually recommend pictures on the spine because the spine is usually too narrow for a picture. And honestly, I prefer to have short reads than books that are so big that the spine is thick enough, like President Obama's book has over 1,000 pages. So he could have put a spine on his book. Yeah, over 1,000 pages. He could have put a spine. He could have put a picture on his spine. But most books, 130 pages to 180, maybe 250 pages, you don't need a spine, right? You just need the title of the book and the name of the author. The back cover serves as an advertisement to entice the buyer to open the book and learn more, right? Different genres demand different types of type elements on the back. For example, nonfiction, we use, for the most part, a different type of font on the cover of your book versus a fiction book. Fiction book uses very frilly, and see how you have Angela's book Back to Her. Some fiction will use the fonts like that, or fonts that are very stylish, or font that are very curvy, right? Depending on the genre of the book. Sometimes in nonfiction, it's very classic, right? Classic fonts. A lot of the fonts are the sans fonts or the Times New Roman fonts. So especially sans serif, sans, some of those fonts are very classic. So a lot of nonfiction book uses those type of fonts in that family. Different genres demand different types of type elements on the back. These include an attention-grabbing headline, an excerpt, a quick summary, bullet points to call to action, buy or read this book, a very short but relevant author bio, and the requisite publisher info and the barcode. So once you turn the back of the cover of the book, you should be able to see the description of the book, well, the title of the book, the description of the book, and the author's picture, the author's bio, and on the bottom of it, the barcode, because every book that goes into publication has to have an ISBN number, which just means International Standard Book Number. That's it, right? ISBN. There's a lot of time if you are a publisher or you're going in that market or you're helping people to write their books and people want to do book covers, you sometimes have to direct the book covers, right? Just knowing how to feel it out. People sometimes want to put all kinds of depiction on the book cover based on what is in the content of the book. And that is far from the truth, and it's very unnecessary. And I'm going to show you an example in a moment, right? So sometimes people want to write, we just recently have one. We've had several, but we recently have one. And the book, I think we were talking about this in our staff meeting, me and Victorious U Press, the team. But it's a book about barren, right? But barren means a lot of different things, right? It's the lack of reproduction, really, is what barren is. So barren could be the lack of reproduction in a woman, but it also could mean the lack of reproduction in the land, a specific plot of land or a specific town or city, depend on rain or lack of rain, right? Or if you think about it from a contextual standpoint, it could be that it's void of reproducing, right? Void of life, right? Could be void of life. So that could be our own life sometimes, right? Just being void of things that will allow us to multiply and replenish. So that's what barren is. And so her book depicts, although the story is about one of the, the characters in the Bible, but the book really goes on to talk about other areas in our life that can be barren. She wanted to have a man and a woman and a pregnant person on the cover. Right? Now, if I see that book cover, I would say it's not for me. Right? Or a lot of women would see that and say, I got kids, so I don't have to read the book. But here's the thing. Although I have kids, there's area in my life that's barren. Right? Because I'm not using my gifts. I'm not sowing the seed that God blessed me with to replenish and multiply, right? So it's me having to say to her, the cover that you want is not a depiction of what your book truly is about. So just knowing that is very important, right? About the cover. Also, colors tells something that's deeper, internal, right? a lot of people write books that deal with mental health. Well, the color of mental health is orange. So you want to have some element of orange in that, right, Angie? I think it's orange, right? You want to have is it orange for mental health? I think it is orange. I think it is. Domestic violence is purple, right? Breast cancer is pink. So if you're writing something, I'm not sure I know that burgundy is for sickle cell, right? So trying to find the color that depicts the thing you're writing about, especially in nonfiction, is really incredible. And you don't have to use the whole cover, doesn't have to be purple or orange or or burgundy or green or gold. People who write book about money, there's always an element of green on the cover of the book, right? It's you just probably knowing what the color is and infusing it in some way, shape, or form with the book. When you think about the spirit, people are writing books that are spiritual, motivational, devotional, uses sometimes cover that has some ocean or the color of water or the sky, because water represents the spirit, and most often water looks blue because it takes the reflection of the sky, right? So understanding those is how you would want to have those colors on your book. A lot of times people will go to Canva and try to make a cover, or they'll go to Amazon and just choose an Amazon cover, but it really doesn't demonstrate or really truly articulate what's in the book. So I want to show you an example of what I'm talking about. So we had an author, he wrote a book called The Commander-in-Chief. And his book is about man returning to the beginning, because he's saying that men nowadays really don't honor their wife or love their wife as Christ loved the church, right? So they want their wife to be submissive, but they don't want to submit to God. Now, the book is powerful, and I applauded that man. I'm like, what? Every man need to read this book. But here is the cover him and his wife came up with, and I hope you can see this. Can you see the screen? All right. This is the cover he chose. So the book was called The Commander-in-Chief. He's talking about God, and it's man's return to the foundation. What do you think about this cover? And you can unmute and tell me your thoughts.
Well,
huh?
First off, I would not have made ethnicity so concrete. I would have used like a silhouette of a man and a woman and let the reader put the ethnicity there. But seeing a white man and a white woman, it could make the reader not want to purchase it because, hey, this is for white people.
Okay.
Or this is someone's perspective based on white people, not other ethnicities.
Mm-hmm. And he's a Black pastor. So just want you to know. All right. Anybody else?
This doesn't, it doesn't make me want to pick it up at all.
Okay.
And based on the title, that's not help. It doesn't grab me and make me want to pick it up at all.
Okay. So, yeah. So when he sent me this book cover, he said, my wife and I decided on this book cover. And I asked him 2 questions. I said, number one, is this realistic in this day and age? Is it realistic?
No.
To have a couple walking with a tiger right there?
Nope.
A tiger right there.
But that's the part what I was going to say. I'm like, what year was this book written?
Here?
21.
And it doesn't look like a commander in chief. What is
No.
that? How does that say that?
Maybe he was trying to say that he was he is the commander and his wife is the chief.
No, that was not even what the
That
book.
doesn't even say that. That picture doesn't say that.
The
It
book is
says
excellent. The book is excellent, but it did not depict. So when he sent me this cover and he said, "This is what my wife and I decide," I called him on the phone and I said, "Pastor," I said, "I could not in good judgment as a publisher put this cover on a book just like that." And he said, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Explain the cover to me." So he said, it is a man's journey back to the beginning. I'll show you the cover we did for him. And he said, "I just thought about the beginning, and in his mind, this is the beginning." So I said, "So you're telling me that you are taking man back to Adam and Eve?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, who says Adam and Eve were white?"
Very, very good. Very good.
I like the idea of the silhouette. That was really good.
But if this is now the one thing that he wanted in there is this dove. See that white dove right there?
I noticed that.
Right. He wanted that dove, and this said, "I want my dove." I'm like, "I got you." And I said, "Stop thinking about the title of the book and think about the context of what you want people to walk away with, right?" And so I asked him, I said, "Pastor, allow me and my team to create your book cover." And he trusted me because in chapter 1 of his book, he misinterpreted the Bible completely. And I was at the airport. I can't forget. I was coming back from Florida and I'm sitting in the airport and I'm reading his book and I'm like, "This is not true. This is totally wrong." Because he said while Adam was supposed to be taking care of Eve, he was out in the garden naming the animals. So I called him and I said, "Pastor," I said, "Sir, with all due respect, like the animals were already named before Eve came on the scene."
Yeah.
So he said, "Oh yeah, you're right. You're right." So anyway, I helped him fix that. So there was a level of trust from that perspective, right? Because he said, "Oh, you read my book. So if you didn't read it, you wouldn't know." So this is the book we created for him. So let me take this one down. Let me see if I can take it down. All right, maybe I can. Let me bring up the one that my team and I created. This is the one we created for him.
Oh, I like that.
I do.
A Man's Return to the Foundation.
And he got
his dove in there.
It's just about, it's an illusion of what the foundation is, right? It is, you can see the sky, you can see there is this level of fog, there is all this green, and there's this element of gold, and we kept the dove, and we put the dove right on the book cover. But now this is for anyone. Now I'll pick it up because it's interesting. Now I want to look, I want to just stare at this cover and it'll just take me back to a place that is rich in life, that is rich in the earth, that is rich in foundation. No animal, no people.
Yeah.
And his book hit the bestseller list like day one. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen and go back to, So when it comes on to book cover, as you are in the space, you're going to have to think through what does the cover look like, right? I think I've shown you guys the cover of my book. Where is it? I don't know where it is. Bags in the Attic. Yeah. I thought through this for a long time. I didn't know what I wanted the cover to be. First, I knew I wanted a stairs no matter what, but did I want an attic? Did I want a house? I don't know. So I went to my photographer in Atlanta and I said, I want to take a picture for my cover of my book. I just want to be sitting at the bottom of the stairs looking up. That was it. And then when I talked to the person who published my book, I didn't publish this book, my publisher, I said, I want the title of my book to cover my face in a way, because there is that mystery, right? Like, I am hidden, but I can be seen, and there is, right? So we ended up doing this. It's me sitting on the bottom of the stairs, looking up, bags in the attic, and the entire title almost covering my face. Because there is a sense of hiding. Title, attic, people hide things in the attic, right? Covering my face, there's a level of, hiding. So as you think about, and if you notice, I don't know if you notice, maybe you can't notice, attic is in purple.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, you'd have to really, attic is in purple. My dress is in purple and white on the back. That's me and my daughters on the back cover, right? So there are these elements, and purple is domestic violence, and green is prosperity, right? So there's all these things that you take into account when you're doing book covers that I wanted to share with you. All right. Any questions on that?
I wanted to make a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
When I was getting ready to do, can you see my cover?
I can't see you at all. You don't have your camera on.
I don't. I still don't know how to do it. But anyway, let me say this. When I got ready to do my cover, I think the very first person put a window behind my head. And when you saw it, Joan, you said, nope, nope, nope. That's not what I see. And I said, so what is it that you see? And you say, I see curtains behind you. And I also see a sky allowing the individuals who are being purified, that bad spirit going out the window. And I was like, oh my God, that is wonderful. And a lot of people compliment the cover because it is intriguing.
Yeah. And I remember you didn't want your picture on the cover.
I do remember that too.
And I told you I needed your picture on the cover.
Right.
You needed to be on that cover. Same thing with Trina. She fought me tooth and nail. She did not want her picture on the book cover. And I'm like, I see it. It's you. It's you with broken glass behind you. Right. Mm-hmm. And I said, send me your picture. She sent me the picture. I called my guy and I said, I need you to find an image of a broken glass. And I need you to set this picture on top of with the broken mirror behind her. Do you have your book with you? And the book cover is stunning.
It's on my bookshelf.
It's stunning, right? So so sometimes we're trying to find, there is nothing more beautiful. And then,
that is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's nothing more beautiful than just you on your cover. You on the cover of your book. Now, if you're writing a guidebook or if you're writing a devotional, most people don't want to put themselves on it, right? Except TD Jakes, and they will put themselves on every book cover. Trust me, right? But sometimes if you're writing a book that is spiritually, motivated, you don't have to put yourself on it. If you're writing a memoir, you should have yourself on the cover. So think about what you want your audience to take away. Think about the emotion that you want your book to evoke, and find a cover that feels like, for me, I love the ocean. I love the mountains. I love trees. I love nature. So any book cover that has sun and sea and wind and thing intrigues me. Not everybody's like that, right? But find the thing that a cover that speaks. You can literally explain the cover away, as opposed to just having just any old cover. And I'm telling you, bookstores look at that stuff. To get your book in bookstores, it has to be industry standard ready, and the cover is also a big deal. Now that we talk about industry standard, this is the part that I want to share with you. I'm watching the time, right? So let us go and talk about this whole thing about formatting. Formatting. If you guys don't walk away with anything, this is something I want you to get down. I'm going to put this in the file section so you can download it and keep it, save it, right? You're going to always need this. So how to format your nonfiction book. And I know I have Prune that is a fiction writer. And Prune, this can relate to you too, right? So know that some of this is relatable to you as well. So the interior of your book determines whether the impression given by the cover was a good indicator of the book's content and character. Most potential readers will flip to the table of contents, if there is one, and then flip through its page. So the interior is often what makes or breaks the sale, as I say in the introduction, right? It should feel comfortable to the eyes, and the design should lead a reader easily through the book's content, providing a pleasurable experience. Not every publisher do this, but if you guys decide that you want to publish your book, whoever you get to format the interior of the book, I want you to ask them to make your table of content, what is it called? Editable, right? So that they can click it. So when is hyperlinked, that's what I meant to say. Hyperlinked. So when your table of content is hyperlinked, a person can read down your table of content, click on chapter 7. If that title resonates with them, and the ebook will take them straight there, or the paperback, once it's uploaded to Amazon, will take them straight to that chapter. So you want your table of content to be hyperlinked, right? So here is the thing about formatting. This is a lot. You don't have to absorb all of it tonight. You can just take the basics away, right? Putting the whole manuscript, including all of the front matter and the back matter, in chronological order in Microsoft Word document. Last week, we talked about the front matter, the body, and the back matter. So when you're formatting the interior part of your book, you're not talking about book covers at this point, right? This is the outer part. So now we're talking about the internal. It's called formatting or typesetting. So if you hear someone say formatting, it's the internal part of the book. If you hear them say typesetting, it's still the same thing, the internal parts of the book, right? Let me see. So using a 12-point Times New Roman with double line spacing is really good, right? In Victorious U Press, we decided that we're going to do the 12-point font with time and a half, 1.5, right? This is industry standard, but we decided that we're going to do 1.5 times space. Do you know why we chose 1.5? Anybody can tell us? Okay. So when you use double space, after each line, it adds additional pages to your book, right? The more pages you have in your book, it's the more the book costs to print on demand. So 1.5 space is the perfect spacing size, right? Here is a industry standard. The first line in the first paragraph after a heading should not be indented, right? So when you start writing your very first paragraph, the first word is left aligned, right? So your first paragraph is flush to the left. Second paragraph is where the indentation starts, and then all corresponding paragraphs. So it's only the first line or the first paragraph after each new chapter is left aligned, should not be indented. All right. Use 1 space after all sentences, not 2 space. So you hit that period, it's 1 space. It's not 2 space, right? So that is another industry standard that is very, very important. Do not insert additional space between paragraphs. A lot of people like to finish a paragraph and then get a whole nother space, then start another paragraph, then get a whole nother space, then start another paragraph. Do not do that. Do just space your thing. Indent, that's how you know it's a new paragraph, the indentation. When the formatter goes to format your book, he will make adjustments to all of that. But as you are typing this industry standard. That's how you're typing. Bold and itemized words you want highlighted in those styles. So if there is a certain thing you want to call out, make it bold so that when it goes to typesetting or formatting, whoever is formatting your book knows that you want this bold, right? So they'll keep that bold. Or you're very specific when you send your book to be formatted, and you'll say, I want every scripture to be italicized. So, so page 3 italicized, page 5 italicized. So the formatter knows when to do it. Because I'm going to tell you this right now, unless you go and learn formatting, just get somebody else to format your book, right? You're going to get somebody to edit it and format it and make your cover. That's just how it is, right? Don't try to be the jack of all trades in publishing, because you can't be all. And if you try to be all, something is not going to be done correctly, right? So if you're doing a publishing business, get a person that's a 1099 person that can be your formatter, one person that can be your editor, one person that can be your graphic designer. That's how you start your publishing business yourself as the lead person, a graphic designer, an editor, and a formatter. And you're good to go. That's your team, right? That's how you start. Use bold initial caps for chapter titles. So every time you're going to new chapter, just bold it, right? Or the typesetter will bold those chapter titles. We talked about the 12-point font. We already talked about last week, when you are numbering pages before you get to the body of your book, it's Roman numerals, right? So your dedication page, your acknowledgements page, your foreword, all of those would be in Roman numerals. And when you get to your chapter 1, chapter 2, those page number all the way to the back of your book will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? At the bottom of your page. It could be bottom middle number, or it could be bottom right, or it could be bottom left, right? Any one of those footer is acceptable. I personally like the footer numbered on the page in the middle, right? All right. Let's see what else we can Bullet points. All right, here's another thing that I want you to know, and I'm going to show you something a little more condensed when we get. When you are writing your manuscript now, don't number your pages. Don't number the pages. And if you're sending a manuscript to be edited or you're sending it to a publisher, make sure that if you type the chapters in the table of content, that you're not putting numbers in the table of content. Why is that? Because you're typing on an 8.5 by 11 paper. The book is only going to be either 5 by 8 or 5.5 by 8.5. So it's going to have to adjust. So all those numbers that you have on the page is going to change. So for the sake of not, because I, as a publisher, I will send it back to you and said, take off all these page numbers. We don't need it, right? Because as we are editing your book, the way Word is set up, we don't even need you to number the page. Word document gives us the page number as we're going through the editing. So like, for example, you see how this says page 1 of 4 on the bottom here? That's the first page, right? Then it will go to page 2, right? It'll go to page 3. So I don't need to have a number on the bottom of the page to know that I'm on page 2, right? I'll know it when we're doing the edit. So when you are sending your manuscript to be formatted or to send it to an editor, make sure that you're not putting any numbers on your page because all of that is going to change. This just talks about inserting photo. Like when you're inserting a photo, do not insert your photos or your graphics or illustrations into the Word document. Instead, when you get the high resolution files, there's a way to insert as opposed to copying it and pasting it. Now, if you want pictures or photos or anything graphic inserted in your book when you are sending it to a formatter to get the book completely done, then you just need to let them know, here are my pictures and this is where they'll go. And they will insert it and adjust it to make sure every photo is the same size. Because the thing is, when we insert it in the document, depending on how the picture was taken, right, the size will be different and vary based on each picture, and you don't want that to happen. Copyright page, we talked about that. I don't know if we talked about that. No, we didn't talk about that in a front matter. We only briefly touch base on that. So here is the thing about the copyright page. The copyright page is showing who owns the right to the book. That's what it is. And each of you that are going to self-publish your book, you should create your own copyright page, right? And here's some basic things that copyright page needs to have. It just needs to have the title of your book, published by yourself, because you all are self-publishers at this point. Some may even have publishing companies, right? You would have published by who, copyright at, and the copyright sign always goes before the year, not after, before, right? So copyright at 2012, copyright at 2022, copyright at 2016, whatever it is, the copyright sign, and then the number, and then your name or your imprint name. For example, in all of the books I publish, you'll see it says copyright at 2022 Victoria Sue Press, right? Copyright at 2022 Marvis Heinzman, right? Or whatever the name of the publishing company is going to be. And this must be in it, right? All rights reserved comes right next to it. And then No part of this document may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of your company name. Request for permission to make copies of any part of the work should be submitted to the publisher at your company name, which is your name, and contact information. So this part right here, you make sure, all right, as a matter of fact, you're going to get this. So you're going to take all of this part and you're going to copy it and you're going to paste it somewhere and you're going to adjust it to you. That must be on your copyright page. All right. In your copyright page, you don't have to, you can name the person who did your cover. You can put the person who did your book cover design. You can put the name of the editor in your book. You can put the where your book was printed. That's important. You can put the year and the date the book is printed. You must have your ISBN number in there and your LCCN number, which is your Library of Congress control number. All right. So this is your copyright page information. That still is the formatting of the book, because that has to be in the book so that when you send it to the formatter, he is making sure that this page comes directly behind your title page. All right. A lot of times, especially in fiction book, this is very good to have in there, right? There's also often this disclaimer, right? That the material in the book cannot substitute for professional advice. Further, the author is not liable if the reader replied to the material, right? So sometimes we put that extra disclaimer in. A lot of times we will put it in if it is also a memoir and we change somebody's name around, but probably the person might read the book and know it's kind of like them, just like my ex-husband. Like, you know, I called him Mr. in the book. That's not his name, but he knows it's him, right? So we have a disclaimer in the book as well, right? So I added this that you can use as a disclaimer. And then we talked last time about some of the things that is in your front matter, and then your back matter of the book. So I just listed it here again. And then here's the proper order of the back matter. So some people, like I said last week, like long acknowledgments. And if it's too long, you can put it in the back of the book. And this is how it would go in the back of the book if you choose to do that. The acknowledgments first, and then about the author page. Or if you want, you know, you have notes or glossary or bibliography or things of that can go in the back of the book as well. So it's just giving you knowledge. You don't have to use these, but at least you know what it all means and where it goes. Now, I created this for Victorious Youth Press because I recognize the depth to formatting. And because we want all of our books to be industry standard, which means we want a bookstore to be able to open our books, right? And put our books in their store, right? So we have all of our books all of our books are in Barnes & Noble online. And I'll tell you why it's on another day, not today, when we do the business section, why we don't want it necessarily sitting in the store on the shelves. We'll tell you that. But all of our books can be found in Barnes & Noble online. It can be found on Walmart.com, Target.com, and a lot of some of the other stores that sell books online, because of the way our book is formatted and all of the industry standards that Victorious Youth Press follows to publish their book. There's a lot of publishers out here that, because it's so cut and dry to publish on Amazon, will go to Amazon and publish a book without having the knowledge of what they're doing, because everything is so free on Amazon, and you can go and just upload, and Amazon said, we'll create the cover for you. Amazon said, we'll format it for you. And you just take all the free stuff. And the next thing you know, you open your book, right? Or I look at your book and I'm like, oh my God, this is not right. One of the things that is very crucial is that every new chapter starts on an odd number page, right? Fiction is a little different, but in nonfiction, every new chapter. So, let me get back to myself. So when you see a book like this with a blank page, it's because the previous chapter ended on a odd number page. And so the next page is an even number page, but because all new chapter starts in an odd number page, we leave the even number page blank. All right. Now, fiction can be a little different. They do anything in fiction. They be just doing their own thing in fiction, right? Because fiction people are cool. Fiction people are cool, right? But and there's still some bookstore. There's still some publishing companies that don't even follow that industry standard, where you may see a new chapter starting on an odd number page. But my direction to you would be just go with the format, the industry standard, right? So when you get ready, when your book is done and you're getting ready to send your book to the formatter, a lot of times people use formatter on Fiverr because they're cheaper. I have like the best formatter on Fiverr. So if you need him, you let me know. When you guys get ready to format your book, I will refer my guy to you, right? He's incredible. And so you have to prepare your manuscript to send to them, but you have to send instructions. No matter who it is, you got to send instructions, right? So this is what we do for Victorious You Press when we are sending we don't have to do this anymore because our formatter has been with us for so long, but just in case you need to have someone from Fiverr or Upwork or a freelancer that does formatting and you're using them to do your book, this is how, or if you have the skills to use InDesign and format your own book, there's a lot of people that are skilled at this thing and can do it, right? Here is what you want to make sure your copyright page is in it and it comes right behind your title page, right? On the copyright page, you have to have the author's name and it must precede the all rights reserved, right? The ISBN number must be added and the LCCN number must be added. So this is our internal thing, right? That's why I said copy from ISBN numbers on Google Drive, blah, 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 right? But this is what I send to my formatter. Have hyphenation turned on. Here's the reason why. So hyphenation, what hyphenation does, right? It centers your written work to make sure the margins are even on either side. Problem with that is sometimes there are these huge space between words. You ever read a book and then you're looking at the words and it's just like these huge, gigantic space in between these words on some of the sentences and some of the lines. And then in other lines, they're fine. Well, they have hyphenation turned off, right? And so it centers their work to make sure the margins are protected. I don't like that. I like when my words line up really correctly, right? I usually ask the formatter to number the pages with the TOC. So if my author puts their table of contents, we ask the formatter to number them correctly. Because remember, the book sizes change. So we need the correct number on the table of content. If there's no table of content done, the formatter will go ahead and type the table of content themselves in the book, right? New chapter on odd number pages. We love that. Headers. Headers is very important, right? Here's the thing with headers. Left headers should have the book title. Right headers should have the chapter title. Industry standard. So on the left side of the header, it should say the name of the book. On the right side of the header, it should say the chapter title. Now, there are some headers that could have author's name and book name. That still is correct. All right. No header should be on the new chapter page. So the new chapter page is just completely no header. Clean right there, right? But on these pages, there's header. There's header. Right? My books, Just Joan T. Randall books, Victorious Hue Press book, we have specific spine size for our books. Industry standard says 1 inch spine all the way around. 1 inch from the top, 1 inch from the bottom, 1 inch from the left, 1 inch from the right. I personally do not like that. Why? Because what it does is gives you all the space at the edge of your book, and it looks like your text is right sitting in the middle of the book. So for my books, I want a 0.75 outer margin and a 1 inch inner margin. That's me. That's my standard because I like it. It makes my books look better, right? So why you want your gutter to be wider is because this is where it's bound, right? And so it's bound here. There's this invisible bound right here. And so when your people open your book, you want to make sure they don't have to open it so wide that they can't read the words down here, right? So a 1 inch interior or a 1 inch gutter is a great space for your book. But here, it's on the outside. It don't have to be that wide. So I always tell my formatter 1 inch spine and 0.75 outer margin. And it just gives your book a nice size on the edge, right? I always want my highlighters, my chapter headers to be bold, and the font should be bigger. And then there are certain fonts based on your manuscript. So there's fonts for poetry. There's fonts for memoirs. There's font for devotional, right? There's fonts for fiction. So font matters, depends on the genre and the type of book that you're writing.